Okay, alright, let me tune into my own stream just to make sure everything is working properly. Okay, alright, let me tune into my own stream just to make sure everything is working properly. I feel like there's a little bit of like a delay in my audio. Okay, alright, let me tune into my own stream just to make sure everything is working properly. I feel like there's a little bit of like a delay in my audio. Okay, alright, let me tune into my own stream just settings input. All right, hopefully this fixes the audio. Let's see. All right, hopefully this fixes the audio. Interesting. Now there's like a lag. Why? A video capture device. Okay, wait. That might have cleaned it up. Now, now let's see. Interesting. Now there's like a lag. A video capture device. Okay, wait. That might have cleaned it up. Now, now let's see. It's so weird that I'm watching myself. Interesting. I mean, I don't understand. Okay, why am I having audio issues? Properties. That's audio. It shouldn't be based on monitor and output. Monitor off. Monitor off. Okay, let's, whatever this mic audio is. Video capture device, audio input, display capture, video capture. Let's see if we delete you. Menu source. Oh. Video capture. Bam. Okay. let's see. This fixed the problem. Hertz. Okay, it definitely is my audio input properties. Okay, what if we do default hello? Now I think that messes it up. What if I just delete this? Mic. Now, does that fix the issue? Let's check. Bop, bop, bop. Okay. Lovely. Great. Okay, that is working. Now, is there any way for color range? All right, I think that's good enough for now. I do wonder why OBS. Okay. Solid. All right. So now we can hear me pretty well for the most part. And then I'm going to turn on my desktop audio and we'll go from here. All right. So today we are going to be taking a look at some spots on Vimeo. These are mostly staff picks. Really, what I want to do is kind of go back and look at some inspiration for some of my future work. Often Vimeo is a great resource for filmmakers to kind of bounce ideas around and kind of see what the rest of the community is up to. Especially in the commercial filmmaking world, I feel like a lot of these spots just don't get the same like love as like, you know, TV or movies would do typically get. So really the goal here is to just kind of look at some spots, talk about them, review them, see maybe if we can hunt down some like BTS and maybe check out some of the individual artists and see what they're doing in their, you know, current work. So first we're going to look at Away by Zigzag. And yeah, I will be able to also Want to turn on ghost mode for this. Enable ghost mode. Okay. I don't know why that messes with the aspect ratio, so that's kind of ridiculous, but let's see. All right, away from zigzag, let's see it. Starting off with the like drone kind of like rotating down, really cool. I think something that's really adds like the interest is like obviously you have these like leading lines, right? And then having kind of the slight rotation in this direction adds a lot of interest to the frame. So that slow kind of like push and twist, nice. Also, really appreciate like the internal like orbit of the car. That's really cool. I mean, if I'm guessing what's happening here, I think it's a gimbal that's kind of like locked off kind of by the console in the driver's seat, and then they're just kind of rotating it from the outside. Landing here. I think also, once again, having like a good variation in shots. So going from like these two like wide angles into a tight macro with that sound effect to break it up. Really cool. Ooh, really nailing that intensity. That's fun. A locked off shot on the luggage. Give another perspective. Once again, like mixing up the perspectives. Hello, viewer. Mixing up the perspectives to have kind of breakups in the shots. Really cool. So going from that drone to the in-camera orbit, in-car orbit, macro, nailed by those sound effects, and then have that locked off shot. Really cool. And now we slow it down. A probe. Oh, I love a good probe shot, especially with that interest. Super wide angle, and the framing here is spectacular. With this kind of breakup here. Love that framing. We get that wide angle push in, and then we have this we have this wide angle push in, and then we have this triangle kind of leading our eye straight to our subject. So that's a really cool kind of point there. And especially with wide angles like this, like you can see kind of the vignetting in the corners here. You can see the way it warps. You know, I have a Tsukina 8mm that has a very similar kind of like fisheye feeling, and I really should break that out more often in my work. Once again, kind of talking about pace, right? So it's like going from like slow, fast, that intrigue. So we're running, we breathe. And we bring it back up. And really what sells that too is the high pass filter that you have in the audio. You can feel the change just listening to it. Like if you listen. The only clarity is in his ref. That was a fun transition here. Going from his reflection and then pulling out. Really cool. And really, what this spot does very well is kind of nailing perspective changes. Just some like notable shots for me are going from, you know, like these little environments that we're showcasing here. Like, for example, this shot when we are straight up on this chicken, this perspective, and then we're in this mirror, and then the fish is another really cool one. Showing multiple perspectives in one like location, like seeing the world through multiple different like unconventional lenses. Great choice in terms of color, having the white and black. And now we really focus in on the product. So the first like 10-15 seconds of this spot is like world building, and we finally kind of reach the cell, right? Super sick spot. Really enjoy that one. Okay, I want to review before we move on to the next one how this is sounding. Okay, I mean, for the most part, this sounds fine. I think what I can do for the next spot is increase the desktop audio a little bit. Just a tad. Okay, we can be about here. All right, so that was away. Zigzag. Next, we're moving on to, let's do Oatly, normalize it. How are we doing on time? Lovely. Okay. All right, the next spot that we have up is Normalize It by Oatly. So let's take a look. Audio, sorry. Right off the top, I just want to say I really love film damage. Look at the scratches and dust on the door here. I love that touch whenever it comes to spots. I'm a big advocate for like cinematic film LUTs or look developers like Dehancer. I just like love taking the edge off, especially with how sharp digital cameras are nowadays. Yeah. that Dutch, really cool. So if we go from like, we know immediately she's acting suspicious, something's afoot, right? We follow it by this like handheld shot, and then macro, this Dutch, it breaks up. I always say when you're Dutching something, you need to have the lines to kind of like make it visible, right? So this is a really nice use of that. I feel like this is a bit too loud. Frame within a frame, once again. So here we have the foreground kind of like giving us some more exposition, and then having this frame within a frame. All of the action happens here. So even though we're getting all of this relevant information, our eye is drawn right down the center of frame. That's a really cool use of composition to tell your story. All of this halation too, this must have been shot on film. All of this halation in the highlights. I feel like this could have very genuinely been shot on film. The track and push in. That was a really cool perspective. Just the overhead, having all of the students funnel in. That must have been a really difficult shot to safety. Now we get the first kind of hint of what's going on here. Once again, using a nice variety of lenses and focal lengths, this wide angle fisheye, tucked away inside this locker, but we get to see what we're working with here for the first time. In the alley, I'm your doctor. When in need, want some, have some, you know me. I love those like pushes. I'm your pusher man. I'm your pusher man. Also, really sick lighting here. My assumption is that they have a bunch of lights rigged out here, pushing all of this light into the facility, creating these kind of shadows. Think about how kind of boring this frame would have been without this light that's here. That's sick. Even the teacher wants oat milk. What sells the intensity of this really well is the handheld kind of breakup. You'll see kind of the frame shaking, and then you have a parafocal zoom, so your focus is set, and then you crash out. It creates this very intense feeling as a viewer. That's really sick. Love that use. Okay. Let's see. This one might have been a little bit too loud. Let's check. The only clarity is in his we're working with here for the first time. Also, really sick lighting here. Um, my assumption is that light that's here. Okay, all right. Moving on to the next spot. Next spot. Levi's, fair exchange. Also, Vimeo staff pick, shout out. Let's just dive right in. I can't see with my camera. This always happens with video. It always gets me. No audio to start. Okay. Ready. Inspired by a true story. Ooh, I love how kind of low lit this is, but how saturated the colors are with it. For example, we have a lot of this kind of like dark space, but even though it's dark, it's very well saturated. So that makes the frame feel a little bit more interesting. Here. Once again, another use back and forth here between these kind of frames within frames, giving us that interest. So once again, all of this level is far darker than the information we have here. We have some light filling in all this. We have this light here. And then, you know, they probably have a little bit of a kick coming in here to give us this edge. Love the landscape of this. That's pretty sick. The separation here between the landscape and the subject, it like really draws your eye in. The way, I'm curious what lenses they use for this, because the distortion is so heavy around the edges. Once again, the saturation in the gene, it's like muted, but it's also very heavily saturated. And that's why it was so well saturated to focus, right? And all of a sudden, we're not as muted anymore. There's like joy to life again. That's pretty sick. For a short spot, that's very well done. Let's see. Directed by Martin de Thra. I'm butchering that name probably. Let's see what else you've got. Curious where this was shot out of. Levi's Exchange. Director's Guild. Danish film director. Huh. Sick. I always love kind of going on these side quests of, you know, people who create work that I like and seeing what they're up to. And, you know, if there's any kind of interviews of them and kind of their story. You know, when I first started working in film, most of the opportunities that I got were from reaching out to people just like this, right? I would find somebody whose work I like, I'd find their name, and then I would email them. And most of the time, you would either be ghosted or you would get a nice reply. Because, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people in this industry have had the same kind of experience as you had, right? So, pretty sick spot. And then I say let's end it there, and then we'll come back another time to watch IKEA Scrab and Tangerine, because I have some work to do for a campaign that we're producing on Sunday. But yeah, if you have any creative spots that you would recommend me watching, please send them my way, as I am always looking for more. I'm always looking for more